Oh man, Black Lives Matter is accused of something that can only be described as shady. So we're going to talk about what's going on with Black Lives Matter and why Black Lives Matter is accused of buying a $6 million house using donations. So we're going to talk about this. So get comfortable, buckle up your seatbelt. We're going to get started on drboystv.com right now.
Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm, great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones too late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to co-sign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr. Boyce TV. Here we are.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to drboystv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I want to say hello to everybody. What's going on? As you come in, shout out your city, shout out the name of your Black-owned business, shout out, put your hashtag B1 in the chat. B1 means we are Black first. That means we put our community at the top of the priority list. If you are B1, let us know in the chat that you are B1. Also, give me the name of your city or the name of your business. I like to know all of that and know where you're coming in from. Hello, Terrell and Brandon and Nathaniel and Joseph and Terrell's in Rochester. I bet y'all getting snow already. Joy out of Atlanta. I'm going down to Atlanta pretty soon. I support the Black House and Hereafter Farms, so I'm going down there to check that out. Also, Nathaniel from Texas, and it looks like I see Jermaine from Philadelphia. All right. Well, shout out to Philly and Birmingham and KC Mo and all the other places that are coming in from. All right. So here's, as you hit the thumbs up button, let me just give you the short version of the story, and then I'm going to give you the Dr. Boyce breakdown of what I'm seeing here. So Black Lives Matter is being accused of yet another interesting thing that involves money. I'm not here to confirm or deny the allegations or whatever, but they are accused of using donation money to buy this $6 million house. In this $6 million house, they can't quite figure out what they were buying it for. They claim to be buying the house to use it as a space for creators, content creators or something. They have these houses where people go and they make YouTube videos or something. And there's surprisingly very little content, at least according to the sources I've seen. There's surprisingly very little content that's come out of this house. I don't think they could track any content that was made in the house. But they bought this $6 million house using the donations. Now, that's that's pretty much the short end of the story. So if your attention span is less than 60 seconds, then you know what? That's then you can go ahead and go. So all the people with short attention spans, you're now dismissed. You know, kind of the general gist of the story. Now let me dig deeper into this and kind of break down what's going on. I'm gonna do this by asking you a series of questions in terms of what I'm seeing here. All right, let me ask y'all a question. Yes or no? How many of you identify with Black Lives Matter? How many of you give me a yes or no if you feel like, okay, Black Lives Matter, that's my organization. I think that their leadership really represents the Black community. Black Lives Matter is really getting it done for me. They're really, making a difference for the people I care about. How many of you, give me a yes or no? How many of you identify with Black Lives Matter? Okay, I'm looking for some yeses. Okay, there we go. I see a couple of yeses, Latanya. Okay, and it's okay to say yes. It's okay to say no. Unlike other places on the internet, we believe in freedom of speech, freedom of thought, freedom of expression. My goal is not to tell you what to think. My goal is to just give you another perspective that you might want to consider, or a perspective that adds to your own. Okay, good. All right, but that's first question. Second question I'm going to ask you is this. Okay, so Black Lives Matter raised somewhere around $90-100 million, something like that, some big amount of money, right? Black Lives Matter was a very prominent brand during the 2020 election. It was the name mentioned most during the riots and everything else that was going on all throughout the country. And so a lot of money was donated. When white people were looking to pay their reparations, they gave money to Black Lives Matter. When they were looking to make amends with the Black community, a lot of them made donations to Black Lives Matter. When they were looking to improve your life, or to let you know that they're sorry for being white and doing what white people do sometimes. Not all white people are bad. We know this, but y'all got some bad apples in there. Y'all know what it is. Y'all have a system, right? They said, let's write a check to Black Lives Matter so our corporation can feel better about ourselves. We can wake up feeling like we really did something for Black people. So I want to ask you this question. How many of you got any money from Black Lives Matter? How many of you did anybody in this room, give me a yes or no? Did any of you get a check from Black Lives Matter? Did any of you get any, support for your business? Did Black Lives Matter come and loan you money to get through the pandemic? Did Black Lives Matter, did they send you a PPP loan? How many of y'all, give me a yes or no, how many of you got money from Black Lives Matter during the pandemic or beyond at any point? Okay. I see. Okay, Mildred, I'm sorry you didn't get your check. Kelvin, damn man, Kelvin, your money was in the mail, bro. I promise you. Right? Okay. All right. So I'm kidding. I have no affiliation with Black Lives Matter. Okay. So how many of you even know somebody who got any money from Black Lives Matter? How many of you can name one single Black person? I'm making a point here. I promise you. Sometimes it takes me a second to get to the point, but when I make the point, it sticks. How many of you even know somebody who got any money from Black Lives Matter, any financial support whatsoever? Right. Okay. So where am I going with this? I'm going with this in this direction. Look, I'm not here to say that the leadership of Black Lives Matter were a pack of criminals. I have thoughts in terms of where they were coming from politically and ideologically. It's not a coincidence that they were all trained Marxists, because my theory is always that typically Black rage, Black legitimate outrage for the treatment that you've experienced, the Black trauma, is a vehicle being used by some members of the radical left and sometimes people on the right to pursue an agenda that is their own, where Black people are a tool, a commodity to be bought and sold to help them achieve their goal. So the fact that they were all trained Marxists, and the fact that the Black Lives Matter website specifically stated that their number one goal was to, I think they said something like disrupt or dismantle the nuclear family or something. That right there tells you that they were kind of on a different agenda. If you notice on their landing page, they talk more about LGBT issues than they spoke about Black issues, right? They just kind of said, let's take LGBT issues and let's put white liberal issues and let's put a black face on it. Let's do white liberalism in blackface. And then we'll call this Black Lives Matter. So for some people, that was quite valid. For some people, I think that's the movement that they needed to be connected to. But some people were duped. Some people were hoodwinked. Some of us were bamboozled because we read the big headline and we don't read the fine print. So I'm not here to say Black Lives Matter is a pack of criminals, but what I am saying is that the most sinister aspect of what happened with Black Lives Matter is that you had an organization that was presented as the Negro representatives. They were presented to the world as the connect to the Black community. They were positioned as political bosses designed to corral Black people to pursue or to support things that certain white people wanted. For example, to get Joe Biden into office, that was the goal. Like, in fact, let me ask you another question. Give me we're doing Q&A today. All right. The next question I want to ask you is this. Since the 2020 election ended, has Black Lives Matter been in the news? Remember, every week there was a police shooting. Black Lives Matter was protesting, had people in the street throwing bricks through windows. That all kind of went away after the election. I told you guys during the election it was probably going to go away. Have you seen Black Lives Matter prominently featured in the media or doing anything of significance on any level since the election ended? Since they got your vote, since they got you scared to go out and go vote for people, have you seen them? What happened? Did the police stop shooting Black people? Did racism end? If it did, let me know. I just need to jot that down in my calendar. Did racism come to an end? Well, where did they go? What happened? What happened? Where did they go? I don't know where they went. Right? I talked to the baby. I talked to my niece and nephew. I don't know where we went. Right? Well, that's a game. That's a parlor trick. That's a trick to again, to use your trauma, which generates a lot of emotionality, for legitimate issues that you've experienced as Black people, and to use that for their own political means. In fact, I think all the original founders of Black Lives Matter, if I'm not mistaken, I got to double check this, but I believe that they've all resigned. I believe that after the election was over, they bounced, they ran. And there are lots of interesting, sinister reports out there to say that when they went to go even look to find the corporate office or to find the office where Black Lives Matter was allegedly headquartered, they couldn't find it. They went there and there was some old security guard sitting there. He's like, ain't no Black Lives Matter over here. Ain't nobody never been in this building, right? So it does come off very problematic. It comes off like a disappearing act, right? And now remember though, this is a massive magic trick. This is a $100 million trick. And I was paying attention. I was watching as the grassroots organizations. These are the real soldiers. These are the real people who really believed in the cause. This is why you got to critical thinking is so important. If you're Black, you must have critical thinking skill. The fact that you have that they endorse a culture of anti-intellectualism where you make fun of people who engage in critical thinking skill, or when somebody breaks down things and gives you the X's and O's and connects the dots, some of y'all are trained to run away from that. that is designed to keep you out of the loop in terms of what's really going on. They're playing chess, and all you ever want, some of us only want to play checkers. So ultimately, with this Black Lives Matter thing, you had a lot of people that were misled. They were misled. They heard the term Black Lives Matter and said, "Oh, I agree with that. I'll join the movement." Right? And you can't do that because they were leaning on that. The people in the grassroots organizations, I believe, really wanted Black people to benefit from the Black Lives Matter movement. The people in the grassroots organizations were really carrying the flag for Black Lives Matter, really doing the work, just like soldiers who go to Afghanistan because they really believe in the whole freedom and democracy nonsense that Congress spits out whenever they're trying to go conquer a country to go get their oil. The ones who went to World War II, really feeling like we were fighting evil, right? When there was a business agenda behind almost every single war America's ever declared, right? And so to some extent, a lot of our people are used in the same way. So ultimately, what I would say is that if you want to understand this better, I always reference this documentary that I love. I believe it was called Poverty Inc. Poverty Inc. And Poverty Inc. is basically a breakdown of how a lot of white liberal organizations will use Black suffering, Black pain, Black poverty as a mechanism to raise money for themselves and for their own agenda. Because all you've heard in terms of Black Lives Matter is you've heard about money being spent on houses, money being spent on fancy stuff. This $6 million house, that's the latest. I think before they were talking about another house. There was a bunch of houses that were $2, $3, $4 million. You've seen them at the Grammys and the Oscars. You've seen them getting sort of all these accolades that don't connect to the core issues of the Black community. If I got a call from an Elon Musk who said, "Look, I want to donate $1 billion to Black people right now. What should I do?" You know what I would do? I would say, let's go to Black neighborhoods and find people who are on the ground, who are really doing the work. Let's go find some of these independent Black owned schools. That's what my wife and I donate to. We have a fund. We donate to independent Black owned schools. We don't donate to universities. We don't donate to public schools. We don't donate to schools run by white people. We find those independent Black owned schools run by Black people who are in the trenches with the community, and we hand them the check directly. When we went to Freedom Home International Academy, I went to visit the school to make sure Marcus Klein was doing everything that he said he's doing. I saw the children give a presentation and they sounded like college graduates at the age of 10. I went to the school and I shook hands with people, and then we sat there and we did a little presentation. I handed him the check directly, and I then followed up to make sure that the money was being used for what I expected to be used for. Everything was on board. If you're talking about supporting the community, that's how you have to give money to the community. You don't do it by giving money to a group like Black Lives Matter, because unfortunately, Black Lives Matter suffers from a couple of cardinal sins in economics. That is a lack of transparency and a lack of accountability. They did not, when the grassroots organizations went to Black Lives Matter leadership and said, "We want you to give us a transparent accounting of what you're doing with the money. We need to see where this money's coming in, who's getting it, what everybody's salary is, where the money's going." From what I understand, from what I have read in the media, the central leadership said, no, y'all Negroes just go out in the street and just raise hell so we can go get corporations. We can get scared white people to write checks to us. And then when white folks will write those checks, they say, we'll collect, we'll take this money on behalf of the Black community. We'd like to receive your donation. And there's no follow-up to see, where the money's going. Now, do you ask Dr. Boyce, have you called Black Lives Matter? How about this? Frills, I want you to call Black Lives Matter, and I want you to try to see if you can get in touch with anybody who's run the organization. From what I understand, the leadership resigned. A lot of the leaders resigned. The three that were on the covers of magazines and everything, I don't think any of them are associated with the group anymore. I'm not sure. Let's double check that to be sure. But from what last time I read, it looked like they had all resigned. They're out of Dodge. When they went to go try, the state of California has actually issued, you can Google this. They've actually issued warnings to say, if you don't file your paperwork, if you don't let us know what's going on, you're going to be in serious trouble. So what I'll say here is this. Look, you got to understand the game. In general, the game is that, look, everybody knows Black people struggle. Everybody knows that you're going through hell. Everybody knows your businesses aren't getting funded. Your communities are falling apart. That your children are struggling. Your people can't get educated. Everybody knows all of this. What people tend to do is they tend to pay themselves by pretending to solve the problem. Nobody actually solves the problem. They just pay themselves by pretending to solve the problem. And Black trauma, Black suffering is great for marketing. So they do the same thing with Africa. They go to African countries. They'll show they take lots of footage of starving babies with flies on their face and bloated bellies because they haven't eaten for 2 weeks, and then they market those images. Those images those images are content gold because they can then market those images and raise millions, sometimes billions of dollars in donations. And then what these organizations do a lot of times, I'm not saying this is exactly what Black Lives Matter did, but what a lot of these organizations do is they'll go pay other white people to create products or whatever, and they'll say, we bought $10 million worth of shoes for kids in Ethiopia or whatever, and maybe they actually deliver the shoes, but the people who got the money for the shoes were people who don't live in Ethiopia. Right. So ultimately, the Ethiopian people aren't that much better off. Maybe they do get the shoes, right? In all fairness, maybe they get the shoes, but they're not getting anything that's going to actually empower the poorest people in Ethiopia. They're not getting any sort of industry. They're not getting any sort of training. They're not getting anything that's actually improving the condition. They're only keeping them in the same condition that they're in because that's how you continuously make money from the same source. So just be ready for this. In the next election, my prediction is that suddenly you're going to see another flare up. Suddenly, racial issues are going to be at the forefront. Suddenly, they're going to re-trigger you. Something big is going to happen that's going to get your racial sensitivities spiked up, get you racially mad, and then it's all going to lead, after they take you through all the loops and hoops, it's all going to lead back to make sure you vote for Joe Biden or make sure you do whatever, and that's how politics works. So with Black Lives Matter, with the money, I don't know what they did with the money. I don't think it's necessarily the crime of the century. I'm not even accusing them of anything illegal. I am trying to say, though, that lack of transparency and that lack of accountability is certainly problematic because people do have a right, who made those donations, they do have a right to ask you, where's the money, who's getting it, where'd the money go, what are you doing with the money, and how's that linking back to the Black people whose suffering you're using in order to raise funds. They raise money in your name. It's almost like when I heard about the Crips and the Bloods that were going after some of these rappers who were claiming to be Crips, claiming to be Bloods, and using their brand, using their name in order to sell records. Well, they started doing something that I thought was quite logical. They started stepping up and saying, if you're going to use my name, if you're making money on my behalf in our name, then you need to pay us a royalty fee. You need to pay us something for the fact that you're using our name. So Blackness is a brand. And Black suffering is a product. So they're using that product. They're selling that product. Corporations are writing big, fat, gigantic, massive checks for this product and to alleviate their white guilt. And then suddenly the money's disappearing. And that's a big problem. I think you're right to be concerned about that. So anyway, guys, that's pretty much what I wanted to say. I got to run. We have stock market investing class in a little bit. So if you want to join us inside class, just go to boycewatkins.com. You can join us. We get started a little bit later this morning. We meet every Tuesday to break down the stock market. I answer all your questions and give you access to stock picks that I believe are going to do well. So if you'd like to join us, just go to boycewatkins.com. Also, don't forget the All Black National Convention is the end of October. So if this is your thing, if you're vibing with the stuff that we do on this platform, the All Black National Convention is a great place to go. So it's at the end of October in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's going to be awesome. So feel free to go to boycewatkins.com if you want to take a look. And also, if you're on Instagram, just hit the link in the bio. You can find out a lot of information there. And yes, I am posting on YouTube. I'm simulcasting on YouTube. All right, guys, have a good day. God bless you. Love you. And please hit the thumbs up button on your way out the door if you could. And I'll talk to you soon. Take care now. Peace.
Here we are, clanting the isms, cataclysm great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones who late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to cosign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr. Boyce TV. Here we are.